I want to pick up where we left off in the last video, but I need to tell you a story about these bulbs. I dug them up from my neighbor's yard, again, with permission, of course, but they have an interesting story, I think, and the interesting part about it is that I don't actually know their story, I just know where their story starts with me, because the thing about bulbs is that it's different for all of them, but a lot of them, that they have to be put somewhere by a person. And last year, nobody lived in my neighbor's house, which meant that when the grass started coming up in the spring, everything else that is in the grass also started coming up. And this was the first time that the lawn had been left untrimmed for months in the spring while I was around. And these little flowers started popping up. So I asked, hey, can I dig up some of these flowers? And of course, they didn't even know they were there. They don't care about the flowers. So I went and I dug up the bulbs, or I tried to. I tried to dig up the bulbs, but I kept not digging deep enough. And I kept digging deeper and deeper, and I kept cutting off the leafy greens from the bulb. And I could not figure out how I was going to get deep enough. But finally, on like my third attempt, I dug deep enough and I got a bulb with a flower attached and put some in my garden last year. And this year, they've started coming up again. I think because they were left so long last year, they were able to multiply even more, because now almost their entire yard, it looks like grass, but it's all these little bulbs. And they have the sweetest, daintiest little white flowers. I've never seen them before. Once I looked them up, they can be a little bit aggressive, clearly, in my own experience, but they're so beautiful. Once you cut them, they grow, so they're not a perfect cut flower in the sense that they wouldn't fit in a normal bouquet, but they last forever in water, and they grow in water. So they're just such a beautiful, perfect spring flower, and I love them so much. So I asked again, hey, can I dig up some of your bulbs? So this year I went for it. I got a whole clump of bulbs, and I'm going to be getting some more. Of course, I'm going to fill in the spot. Don't ever take a plant from someone without permission, and then of course make sure you leave it as if you didn't take anything in the first place, and that's what I'm going to be doing. The story of these bulbs is one that I don't know, and I have a feeling that somebody at some point planted these in my neighbor's yard, and even though that person who planted the bulbs is no longer here, maybe they're no longer with us, those flowers are still there, and not only are they there, but they have persisted after years of being cut and cut and cut, and they have multiplied and they have grown and they have multiplied and they've grown. And then finally last year they had the chance to bloom, and I got to enjoy them. And I just think that's so sweet and so beautiful, and that's like the magic and the beauty of plants. When you plant something in your garden, in your yard, that will last 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, if people care for them, or sometimes don't care for them, they'll just keep right on doing their thing. And other people that we may never know or meet will get to enjoy them. And I think that's very beautiful. And that's sort of a lot of why I garden and how I garden. And my home was built sometime in the 1800s. And there aren't many plants in my yard or in my garden that I have found that were left behind. But there are a few, and I feel like they have a story as well. So I got a bunch of tiny little bulbs. I put some of them in pots, and the rest of them there were quite a few casualties. So I have a bunch of random bulbs unattached to their greens, which I'm not sure if they're going to do anything. Because they detach so easily, it makes me think that maybe they will bloom again, maybe not next year, but the year after. I'm not sure. I'm probably just going to chuck them in a pot or in the ground, forget about them, and then remember if they start coming up, I'll be like, oh yeah, I did that. Who knows? But I put the rest in some little pots, and I put some in the sun and I put some in the shade. I'm not sure where they'll do best. They're currently growing in my neighbor's yard on a north-facing hill. So it gets like partial sunlight, but it never really gets in direct sunlight. So we'll see how they grow. We'll see how they do. I love these little flowers. One of their common names is the Star of Bethlehem, but there are quite a few flowers that go by that name, so I'll put up the scientific name as well. But let's get back to what we were doing. In the last video, I recapped all the seeds that I have started so far during my weekly seed sowing videos. If you want to see those, make sure you like and subscribe if you're enjoying this. let me know. Send me a comment. Did you have a plant that showed up in your garden that you think someone put there? I love hearing those stories. I think that's so beautiful. Once I got some of the trays out of my house that I wanted out in my house, by the way, they're doing great. They're doing fine. I did have some carrots that I wanted to get started. I tried to grow carrots the first year I started gardening and I failed miserably. I think part of the problem is that they are so fiddly. If you don't know, carrots are a plant that does not like to be started in pots and then planted out. So you kind of have to plant them where they're going to grow. But they also like moisture. They don't want to dry out. But they can't be buried too deep because they kind of like the light and or something. They need to be close to the surface. So it's just like a lot of fiddly stuff. To me, they remind me of snapdragons, except for the fact that snapdragons are tough. Like you can start them inside, start them in pots. You can mess up their roots. You can cut them in half and they'll come back and grow and, branch and do even more. But carrots are not that way. Like if you mess them up, they will not grow. There is a very narrow window of time when you're growing them where if they dry out and they are just starting to germinate, they're gone, they're dead. You have to start again. But you can just start again. Most seed packets have plenty of seeds. You do not need all the seeds unless you're like a commercial grower or market gardener. And they are a type of seed that if you do not use them in the first year, they will not germinate as well the next year. So you should probably use up your seed packets as you can in the year that you're growing. My method of starting carrots is that I kind of make a little funnel, little groove, water, fertilizer, and I actually went through with my shovel and like loosened up the soil underneath because carrots like nice, loose, fluffy soil to like make that long taproot because that's the actual carrot. I give it a good soak. I soak it. I give it a good soak with water so that there's plenty of moisture there. So if I do miss that window, there's moisture at least in the soil that will hopefully keep those seeds from drying out. Then I sprinkle the seeds however I want them. Sprinkle some soil on top, pat it down so that the seeds are kind of in place because you have that moisture underneath. I feel like it kind of sticks to the seed. I'm not sure. And then I give it a nice little water on top to kind of really make sure that they're in there. And then every day I'm going to go out there at least once or twice, either in the morning and the afternoon or just once a day, and just make sure that they're not drying out, which at this time of year, the sun can get kind of strong. So if you go like a few days without rain or moisture, for me personally, like those carrot seeds will dry out. So I try to stay on top of it, try to keep in mind that, oh yeah, I started carrot seeds. I should like be watering them or whatever. I also popped around them before some broccoli and some kale. We'll see how they do. I'm not sure. I put them in there with some plant tone organic fertilizer. And yeah, that's really all that I have to say about that. I have a forest that I need to clear and that needs clearing. There is a lot in here. I've been finding a lot of fun hidden things. I think unlike my garden and the property that I currently live on, the person or the people who lived on the property next to me at some point definitely had a green thumb, and they definitely put some hidden gems and some hidden plants all around their property, and I have been slowly uncovering them and finding them, which is really fun and makes clearing kind of like a treasure hunt. So in a video very soon, I will be on my hands and knees clearing and talking about the story of my home and also the property next to me, why I bought them, why they're so important to me. But I will have to love you and leave you there. I think that's the thing people say. And we are currently getting an absolute torrential downpour of rain. So yeah, I will wait until I can get back in the garden again. But thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what else you want to see. And I will talk to you or see you in the next one.